All right, let's dive into something pretty fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's all about manifesting desires,
Oh, okay.
like, making your wants a reality, turning thoughts into things.
I'm intrigued.
It's called Neville Goddard's telephone technique, and it uses, get this, the power of imagination.
Interesting. This is based on his teachings, right?
Yep, and it's from way back the mid-20th century. The year is 1967.
Wow, that long ago.
It's pretty wild that it still resonates today.
Yeah, for sure.
Our source for this deep dive is an actual lecture by Neville Goddard. We found it on YouTube, read by Josiah Brandt. And the best part,
What's that?
Neville doesn't just talk theory. He shares, like captivating real-life stories, people using this technique and boom, passing tough exams, landing dream jobs, even major weight loss, all because of this telephone technique.
I'm all ears.
Oh, and you know what else? A core principle Neville emphasizes is putting faith into action, taking it beyond just accepting and actively applying it.
So not just believing, but doing, right?
Exactly. He believed real faith comes from actually seeing these principles work, firsthand.
Makes sense.
Okay, so let's get into this telephone technique, shall we?
Let's do it.
Neville actually learned it from a woman in his audience who was like, this thing never fails. She shared this story about a friend who was convinced she'd fail this super hard exam, to become a court stenographer.
Oh, wow. Those are notoriously difficult.
Right. So instead of getting caught up in her friend's negativity, this woman decided to change the story in her mind. She imagined calling her friend, and her friend was over the moon, ecstatic because she passed.
So changing the ending in her mind.
Exactly. It's really powerful how our imagination can shape outcomes.
I can see that.
But here's the thing. Weeks went by in silence. The friend was still like, I failed. I know it.
Oh,
But then 6 weeks later, ring, ring. Guess what?
yeah.
She aced it. It's crazy how that simple revision in her mind, that imagined phone call,
Yeah.
had a real world result.
That's pretty wild.
And this woman, she had another story. There's one about a friend in her 50s who was desperate for a better paying job. She wanted to get back into a company she used to work for, but, age was a worry.
Oh, yeah. I can relate to that.
So this woman, she used the telephone technique again. She imagined, really heard her friend getting the job offer.
Okay.
And then she added to it not just the job, but a higher salary. And get this, recognition for her past 10 years of work, which would boost her retirement benefits.
Wow. She went all out.
And guess what? It all happened. The job, the raise, and those 10 years added to her work history. It's like the technique went above and beyond.
Exceeded expectations. Huh?
Totally. Like it tapped into something more than just her conscious desires.
That's pretty fascinating.
Oh, and there's one more. This woman had another story about an overweight maid who wanted to lose 25 pounds, but nothing seemed to work. So this woman, using the telephone technique again, she imagined the maid at her goal weight, a healthy 140 pounds. And the results were, well, kind of remarkable. A&E, a little unsettling. The maid lost the weight, hit her goal, but then kept losing, unintentionally, even going below 140.
Whoa, that's kind of scary.
It's like her mind locked onto that 140 so strongly it just kept going. It really shows the power of imagination, to kind of create a blueprint for our reality.
Powerful stuff.
So that brings us to the heart of this telephone technique and how it connects to Neville's main teachings. He truly believed our imagination shapes reality.
Okay.
And this technique, it gives us a way to harness that.
Right. So how does it work? What are the actual steps?
So it's almost like mental rehearsal.
Mm.
You picture the unwanted situation, that conversation you don't want to have, and you really tune into it.
So not ignoring the negative.
No, you're facing it head on, acknowledging the fear, the challenge.
I see.
Then comes the big shift, the revision. You rewrite the scene in your mind. Replace the negative with what you want to happen. You literally hear the conversation, the good one, as if it's already happened.
So tapping into those positive feelings.
Yeah, like the relief, the joy of achieving the goal before it actually happens in the physical world.
I get it.
And then, after holding on to that revised image, that feeling, you let it go. No obsessing, just trust.
And that's where faith comes in.
Totally. You got to believe your imagination is strong enough to shape things. Trust those seeds you plant, your mind will grow.
It all ties together, the imagination, the faith, the belief.
It's like Neville is saying our imagination is the key to unlocking our true potential. And this technique, it's a way to use that key.
Very cool. I like that analogy.
Me too.
So we've seen how it works for big things, career goals, weight loss. But could it also work for, our beliefs about ourselves, like changing those inner conversations?
That's a great question. And it makes me think about how much our self-talk, that inner voice, shapes what we do and who we become.
For sure. And that leads us to Neville's idea of repentance. He didn't mean like guilt or anything. He meant a total shift in attitude, a real change in how we see ourselves.
So not just wishing things were different, but actively reshaping our core beliefs.
Exactly. It's about transforming from the inside out. And those inner changes, they show up in the outer world, the
Yeah.
conversations we have, the opportunities that come our way, our whole reality shifts.
Wow. It's like choosing what we hear in our imagination is actually choosing what we experience for real.
It can become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
That's powerful stuff. I'm really intrigued by this whole concept of repentance as a way to change our reality. Maybe we should dig into that a bit more in the next part.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan.
All right, we'll pick up this thread next time.
Looking forward to it. Yeah, so Neville's idea of repentance, right?
Yeah, let's unpack that.
He saw it as less about feeling guilty and more about a complete change in how you think, a fundamental shift in your beliefs about yourself, mainly.
So like not just wishing things were different, but really reshaping those deep down beliefs.
Exactly. It's about a real inner transformation. And it's funny because that inner change,
What about it?
it shows up on the outside too, in the real world. When we change those conversations in our head, it affects how we talk to others, the chances we get, even our whole reality can change.
Wow, that's kind of deep. So you're saying that what we hear in our imagination, like those revised conversations, actually ends up becoming our reality.
It can, yeah. Like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
That's heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Neville, did he talk about how we can, actually put this into practice? Like how to change those inner conversations?
Oh, yeah, for sure. He believed in personal experience, not just blindly following what others say.
Right, not just accepting things at face value.
Exactly. He'd say, like, imagine someone blindly following and leading others the same way, both falling into a pit.
Ouch, that's a vivid image.
Yeah, he was big on critical thinking, testing things out for yourself.
I like that.
He also had a different take on sin. He didn't see it as, like, this big moral failing.
So what did he think it was?
He saw it more as missing the mark, like not living up to your full potential.
Interesting perspective.
And he thought the way to overcome those limitations was by tapping into our imagination, that creative force inside us all.
So using our imagination to reach our potential.
Yeah, pretty much. It's
Yeah.
different from, the traditional view of sin and redemption.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's saying we have this inherent ability, this power, but we got to figure out how to use it.
Right. And he even talked about, how the Bible mentions rock a lot.
Yeah.
He saw it as like this symbol of ultimate limitation, being stuck, contracted.
I never thought of it that way.
He even had this vision once of a giant quartz rock breaking apart, then forming into a statue of himself, glowing, and then boom, exploding.
Oh, that's intense.
He thought it represented like how we experience ourselves as separate, limited.
Makes sense.
But in the end, those limitations, their illusions, were all part of something bigger, interconnected. It's like we each have a role to play, but we're all connected to the same source.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that source, that creative power, it's within each of us.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It is. So this whole telephone technique, it's not just about getting stuff. It's a tool to access that power, to create a more fulfilling life.
This has been really thought-provoking. It challenges a lot of conventional ideas about, like, who we are and how the world works.
Totally. And Neville, he's not just talking theory. He's giving us practical tools to, try these ideas out, see if they work in our own lives.
Like he's saying, don't just take my word for it, go try it yourself.
Exactly. It's about exploring, experimenting, and making these teachings a part of your life.
So we've seen the telephone technique work for these like big dramatic changes. But what about everyday stuff, those smaller things we want to change? Could it work for those too?
Oh, absolutely. The main idea is that imagination shapes reality, right?
Uh-huh.
So it can apply to anything, tough relationships, money problems, even just trying to have a more positive outlook.
So like if I'm super stressed about giving a presentation at work, I could use the telephone technique for that.
You got it. You'd start by picturing it going badly, like really tuning into that anxiety, the audience not paying attention, all the negative stuff.
So like we talked about before, not pushing away the negative, but facing it.
Right. You're bringing it to the surface so you can, consciously change it. Then comes the revision. Imagine that presentation going perfectly. See yourself confident, the audience engaged, and feel that sense of accomplishment afterward.
And I'd hold on to that revised image, that good feeling, until it feels real.
Exactly. Then let go and trust that you've set things in motion for that outcome to happen.
It's like a mental practice run, programming your mind for success.
That's a great way to put it. And the more you use this technique, the better you get at, shaping your thoughts and beliefs and ultimately your reality.
It makes sense. But what about when, like, the world around us is full of negativity? Bad news, difficult people. How do we stay focused on what we want when it feels like everything's pulling us in the other direction?
That's where Neville's revision idea comes in handy. Remember, we have the power to choose what we pay attention to, what we hear in our minds. So even when negativity is all around, we can consciously choose to revise it, to change it into something that supports our desired reality.
So, for example, if the news is constantly talking about, like, a bad economy, I can choose to revise that conversation in my head and focus on abundance instead.
Exactly. It's not about pretending challenges don't exist. It's about choosing to focus your energy on the outcome you want to create.
It's a powerful way to shift perspective, like creating a filter for your mind, only letting in the good stuff.
And it's not just about changing our own experience. We're actually contributing to a better, more positive reality for everyone.
I like that, the idea that our choices can have a ripple effect.
Neville believed that we're all connected, all part of the same source. So when we align ourselves with love, joy, those positive things, we're not just helping ourselves, we're uplifting everyone around us.
That's a beautiful thought. This whole conversation has been really inspiring. It makes you want to, like, go out and revise every negative thought you have.
No, right. But it also makes you wonder, if we really have this power, why aren't more people using it? Why aren't we all living our best lives?
Yeah, why not? What's holding us back?
I think it's a few things. First, a lot of people just don't know about this power. They've been taught that they're, victims of circumstance, that they can't really control their lives.
It's like they've forgotten they have this ability to create.
And even those who do know about it, they often struggle with doubt. It's hard to really believe that something as simple as imagination can make such a big difference.
It's like they're scared to step into their power as creators.
Yeah. Plus, we're constantly bombarded with messages telling us we're not good enough, that we don't deserve what we want, all that negative stuff.
It's easy to internalize those messages, making them true.
And it becomes a cycle. But the good news is we can break free. We can choose to cultivate positive beliefs, replace those limiting stories with new ones that help us grow.
And the telephone technique can be a tool for that transformation.
For sure, it's like a way to reprogram our subconscious, replace the bad thoughts with good ones, aligning with what we want.
It all makes sense.
Yeah.
But it does make you think about the ethics of it all. If we can manifest anything, what's stopping us from using this power for, selfish or harmful reasons?
That's a good point, and Neville talked about that too. He believed that spiritual growth, it naturally leads us to use our power for good, to benefit everyone, not just ourselves.
So it's not just about getting what we want, but using our power responsibly.
Exactly. He said that when we act from love, we naturally create things that are good for everyone.
Like there's this inner compass guiding us towards the right choices.
Yeah. And when we go against that, when we use our power for selfish reasons, we end up hurting ourselves and others.
So it's in our best interest to use this power for good, to align ourselves with, like, the highest good for everyone.
Neville also talked about forgiveness, how it's important. He thought holding on to anger or resentment towards ourselves or others, it blocks that creative energy, making it harder to manifest our desires.
So forgiveness is about more than just letting go of the past. It's about making room for a better future.
Exactly. It's about breaking free from those limitations and embracing all the possibilities of the present moment.
This is all so hopeful and empowering. It feels like we really can shape our destiny. And not just for ourselves, but to create a better world for everyone.
That's what Neville's teachings are all about. We're not helpless victims. We're powerful creators.
This deep dive into the telephone technique has been amazing. It's changed how I think about what's possible,
Teacher.
and it's given me a whole new understanding of the power of imagination.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it, how these ideas, they still feel so relevant today.
They really do. It's like he tapped into something, deep within us, this ability to shape our reality.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive, is there like one big takeaway you hope our listener walks away with?
That's a good question. I think the most important thing to remember is that We're not limited by, our circumstances.
Hmm.
Our true power, it comes from our imagination, from our ability to see and believe in a different reality.
Yeah, it's like we have this incredible superpower, but we forget to use it.
Exactly. And this telephone technique, it's like a reminder. We can change our lives just by shifting that inner dialogue, by revising those stories we tell ourselves.
It's a call to action, right? To become a conscious creators of our experience, to really step into that power and shape a reality that, aligns with what we truly want.
And as we do that, we not only change our own lives, but we create a more loving, joyful world for everyone.
That's the beauty of it.
So to our listener out there, we encourage you, try this telephone technique. See if it works for you. What conversations do you want to revise? What reality do you want to create? Because the power, it's all within you.
And remember, this journey of, self-discovery, spiritual growth, it never really ends. There's always more to learn, more to explore.
So keep an open mind, stay curious, and embrace all those possibilities that are waiting for you.
Beautifully said.
Yeah, that's a great note to end on. And with that, we'll wrap up our deep dive into Neville Goddard's telephone technique. We hope you found it insightful, inspiring, and maybe even a little transformative.
I know I have.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep imagining, and keep creating the life of your dreams.